Welcome to America's Mayor Live. Live, not from the Vatican, where we wish we were, because we'd love to go to the Mass this weekend. I've had to turn down a Yankee baseball game tonight with the feared New York Mets because I have a strep throat, and I am concerned that I will give it to other people. And I am also concerned that it will get worse if I travel. Now, here's the strangest thing. I had Ted and a number of others, and we had Gilly here last night. Wasn't that great with our friend Gilly?
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun.
Wasn't it great? I mean, I'd like to be on with that guy all the time. It wouldn't even be work.
Oh, it's hilarious. I was literally on the floor laughing.
Yeah. You guys got to watch. If you haven't watched, it got a lot of views. I think we went over 300,000 just on X.
It's higher, honestly.
It might be by now. But the last one went like ridiculous after a couple of days.
And their memes are awesome.
Yeah, but he's good. I mean, he's a good guy.
And the videos,
and he's smart, and he's funny, and he brings out funny things in me too.
Yep.
He gets me to be looser and funnier.
That is the sign of a highly effective.
Please don't get upset, but I actually do have a very good sense of humor. You know, I had my third communications director, Sonny Mandel. I talk about her often, but she originally covered me when I was mayor, and she went to my communications director. And Christine Latigano. And she said, Christine, you know, it's funny with your boss, but he's been there now for about 3 weeks. He's the first mayor. I mean, Koch was stupid. So, oh, well, okay. Well, Koch has supported us. We couldn't agree that he was stupid. He was like stupid funny. Your boss has the greatest sense of humor. I just sit there laughing my head off. And these New York Times people, they force themselves not to laugh. And every once in a while, he breaks them down. Have you noticed that? And she said, yeah, that's the way he was on the campaign trail and everything else. Well, Sonny eventually came to work for me, and it had a very happy ending. But in any event, I do have a great sense of humor, and I do think that things can often be conveyed that way. So, Stephen, would you just flip around the board so I know where I'm going? And while you're doing that, you see that picture behind me? Now, that's a beautiful picture of the Vatican. You're looking at what's going to be filled up for the Mass. Or just flip that around. So now, if you're looking at the Mass, you know they're all going to be out there. I think the Mass is outdoors, right?
Yes, sir. They're going to have it set up to be.
Yeah, it's going to be outdoors.
Yeah, I mean, set up to be outdoors, Mayor.
The ones if you can pull up a couple of old ones, it might be nice. But I'm going to do the other cardinal. Okay. Not the great cardinal who is about to be Pope Leo the 14th, who comes from America by way of Peru. Now that's a really great cardinal. I'm gonna talk about another cardinal, a disgrace of a cardinal, a cardinal who should be in jail. I should actually play this for a little drama, right? But I want you to look, because I was once an amateur photographer, and I even had a showing by the Leica galleries. And then after September 11, I had 4 remaining photos that I took, especially of the World Trade Center, and they were all auctioned off the night that I was made a honorary Knight Commander of the British Empire. And we got a fortune for them. They weren't worth a fortune. I mean, they weren't. When they were originally sold, they even sold for highly inflated prices because the money went to the administration, the private auxiliary of the Administration for Children's Services. But the second time, it went to the families of the victims of 9/11, and we got a fortune for them. But I want to show you that I can still take pictures. This is the one I took on our recent. Are you showing it?
Yes, sir.
This is the one I took on our recent trip to Rome. Now, it's a different view than the one you see in back of me. This is from the northern side of the Vatican, and that's Vatican. You know, Rome is built on hills, right? So this is one of the hills right here. In between, there's a valley. The Vatican is the Vatican Hill. And then there's a higher hill. This is on the other side of the Tiber River, which you can look down on the Vatican. This is a great place to photograph the Vatican.
Who owns the other hill? What's on the?
Oh, the other hill is just private property. Look at that great orchard or whatever.
I take that villa with orchard.
I mean, those things are like typical like Jerusalem. And look at that. Let's see if I can show it better.
Holy moly! Good camera.
What do you think of that? This is my. This is all my new. The newest of the iPhones. Now, I could have made this greener in editing, and I should have, and I will now that I realize I can do this. But I want you to notice how beautiful that is.
So you took this picture, Mayor? This is from you?
Nobody else but me.
Oh, Ted, get
now
jealous.
is it safe?
Not only did I take it, I edited it. Let me show you what it looked like before, if I can.
So is it safe to call you a? You're more than an amateur photographer. How about semi-professional?
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Hey, we're professionals.
You see that?
We're
Are
professionals.
you a professional photographer
That's
or
what it looked like. See
semi-professional
that?
photographer?
So many pictures have you with a gimbal recently.
Now take a look at that, which is a cloudy day, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what it looked like when it came out of the camera. And that's what I did with editing.
Wow.
And
so,
Ted,
you not only can take these pictures, but you can edit them.
Yeah.
You've got an eye for editing, Mayor.
I do.
To be really good at something like
and
that.
for composition,
it's
I
not
was
as-
told by the Leica people. They gave me a camera for 3 months and they told me to go around the city because I as an amateur photographer, I occasionally did weddings for money.
You're up
But my real goal, this is going to probably, some psychiatrist is going to have some kind of view of this. It's going to be terrible, but I didn't particularly like taking pictures of people. I like taking pictures of what you see there. And my real goal, like I made for myself, I was basically a practicing lawyer then and U.S. attorney, and went into the days I was mayor. And by the time I became a politician, it became hard because I couldn't go around. I actually even couldn't go around taking pictures. Imagine if the mayor's coming around taking pictures of you. The ACLU will sue you for privacy violations. And I always was a little embarrassed of taking pictures of humans. I always felt that, was I intruding on them? So I was attempting to get the very best picture of my favorite New York City landmarks. So I did one for the Brooklyn Bridge. I did one for the Triborough Bridge. I did one, of course, for Yankee Stadium. I did one for what was then Shea Stadium. I did one for the municipal building. I did one from the courthouse. I grew up in the federal courthouse. I did one from the very, very famous Supreme Court building. The Triangle building, Madison Square Garden, a couple of places in Harlem and Brooklyn that you wouldn't think of. But I did 4 of the World Trade Center. And it wasn't until the very end, the last day, when I had to turn them in, I just wasn't happy with the ones I had. And I was sitting in the police department waiting for Bernie Carrick to come out, I think. And I took out my camera. It was just like twilight. And I looked up and I said, oh my God, after 10 years, because I was doing this, I never noticed this is the perfect view of the World Trade Center, right here from the courtyard of the police department. And then that was the painting that sold for the most.
Oh, wow.
Well, James Cardinal Comey is once again putting himself in jeopardy of being arrested and prosecuted for threatening the president of the United States. Of the cases against him, this would not be the strongest. The strongest one is the unassailable, the unbelievably clear case where he perjured himself and virtually admitted it 4 or 5 times, if you know how to put evidence in a criminal case, that he lied about the fact that the Steele dossier was verified. The Steele dossier was not verified. From his actions, you could prove it was not verified. Example, in the Steele dossier, they said they went at some point to get a visa at the particular consulate in Miami. At the time that Steele said that happened, that Michael Cohen did that, there was no such consulate in Miami. And obviously, Steele was making it up. I'm just picking a few minor points. There are about 30 of these that you could have picked out. When the crooked, dishonest, anti-American, disgusting American press said, well, it couldn't be verified easily. That is an absolute, complete lie. And they're talking to one of the guys who established Pfizer and who verified every one. So I can look at that Steele affidavit, that phony affidavit. I can give you 5 places he could have verified it. 5 places where an honest FBI director with a affidavit of such great moment to investigate the president of the United States would have been not just negligent, but deliberately negligent, not verifying. How about Michael Cohen says, I made a trip to Prague on X and X date. Now, he didn't say it. Steele said, Michael Cohen made a trip to Prague on XY date to meet with 2 representatives of Vladimir Putin. Okay, Jimbo. Is it that you're a liar, or are you fundamentally stupid? Did I make of course I made a terrible mistake hiring you for a law enforcement position. I will regret it all my life and into eternity. But you're supposed to verify whatever you can in a Pfizer affidavit, because nobody ever gets to challenge it. It's only challenged by your integrity, which of course doesn't exist. The ones that I did were challenged by my integrity because it does exist. So if I saw that the informant was saying that the go-between went to Poland on such and such a date to meet with a Russian spy, I would call the passport office, and I would say, get me his passport for that day. And then within a couple of days, I'd have gotten the following back. He never went to Prague. Oh, you mean on that day? No, Mr. Director of the FBI. I mean on any day. And wouldn't that open up what they knew already, because they threw him out as a liar, even though they presented him as telling the truth 2 more times? I'm sorry. The man should have been prosecuted then. Real question is, should he be prosecuted now for, well, let's bring on Joe DeGenova, who knows more about the Pfizer court than anyone, and also knows plenty about the FBI and was the former U.S. attorney in the District of Columbia. Joe, we're back with our friend, I shouldn't say our friend, our nemesis, Jim Comey, and maybe the guy I'm the most embarrassed about because I hired him. Now, what do you think of this thing with these numbers? We'll show the numbers, Ted. Can we show the numbers?
Yeah.
$80, $86, $47. James Cardinal Comey says he was walking along the beach. He saw that. And he just put it out, right? He knew it was something political, but he didn't know what it was.
Right.
And when he found out, he took it down. Now, I should tell you, in 2 cases that he prosecuted in the Southern District, those terms were used on the tapes. They were used in the Genovese case, and they were used in the Gotti case. In some cases, they would say, we 86'd him. In some cases, they would say, we 6'd him. That was a while back, but it was in his memory. So what do you think? What should happen here?
Well, first of all, I want to take credit for calling James Comey James Comey a dirty cop. I was the first one who described him that way after his role in framing the president of the United States became apparent. I think what you've watched here is, first of all, I'm not sure he didn't put those shells down on the sand, number one. This would have been the second group of shells that he found in the last couple of years on the beach where he walks, which had something to say about Trump. I think Jim Comey is a despicable individual. That aside, I think this is number one, an add-on, because here's my view, Rudy. The use of the 8647 in a tweet or a stack, whatever he did, wherever he put it up, Instagram, whatever, was an overt act in furtherance of the original conspiracy against Donald Trump, which involved
I love
him,
that, Joe.
McCabe, and others.
Very smart.
And the overt act now regenerates the statute of limitations, and it brings to life all of the other acts which occurred during the Obama and Biden presidencies. And my view is the 8647 is an overt act.
Joe?
I don't care if he gets prosecuted for it. What needs to happen now is there needs to be a grand jury in the Southern District of Miami to investigate the original conspiracy against Donald Trump, led by James Comey.
That's brilliant. And now you would have either the conspiracy or RICO statute that would be taken beyond the statute of limitations because the conspiracy or RICO enterprise is still going on.
That is correct. And in fact, what you would do is, in my opinion, if I were the prosecutor and had a grand jury in the Southern District of Florida, I would issue subpoenas to Tony Blinken and find out why he started the letter that the 51 intelligence officers signed.
Yeah, I'd like to know that too.
And that is part of the conspiracy. It's all part of a group of acts committed by current and former public officials, law enforcement, intelligence, and others who sought to deny Donald Trump his civil rights. It is a case that needs to be investigated. It needs to be done soon. And thanks to James Comey, we've got a new statute of limitations running.
Yeah, and you know, it's amazing. How many times in your career, and we can sit down sometime with some wine and discuss this, but how many times in your career do they catch themselves?
Yes.
There was no need for this. What's he doing? What's he doing putting that out?
I put it out to promote his book.
Yeah.
He wanted a reason to get his name in the media again. But, the guy is a sociopath, number one. But he's also, he has delusions of grandeur. You and I have both spent time in his presence. And he is, in fact, a self-absorbed, arrogant SOB.
That's why I call him James Cardinal Comey.
That's correct. It's well put. I do think, though, that my view of 8647 is it's a fantastic new piece of evidence. And I'm sure that the people in the Justice Department who've been thinking about looking into weaponization issues, I'm sure they're all over this.
Yeah, and I mean the reality is that on far less than this, he went after. Look what he did to Flynn, right?
Of course. Well,
entrapped him, set up a completely dishonest sting operation.
No question about it.
And took ambiguity of the worst kind and prosecute him to ruin him.
Absolutely. And in fact, there's been no greater abuse of the federal prosecutorial system in our lifetime than what James Comey did to a sitting president of the United States. And I just think it's long overdue to open a grand jury into the conspiracy against Donald Trump's civil rights. And I hope that the weaponization people at DOJ will do it.
Well, they've got a motivation for it, right? And but you know what the real motivation should be, Joe? Justice.
Correct.
Justice. If
Correct.
we don't do this, it's as if the scales of justice have gone like, we have got to straighten them out again. And you only do it with prosecutions of the people who are truly guilty and show it to the American people. And then for a while at least, people will be too frightened to do it again.
I agree with that. And there's no other way to do it. You can't have commissions. You can't have congressional
No.
hearings. There have to be grand juries. There have to be trials. And by the way, I have to say this with sadness in my heart. I was extremely disappointed in John Durham that he never went here. I could never figure out what he was doing. I know he's an honorable man. Maybe he's an institutionalist like some of the people that have run the Justice Department. Maybe he didn't want to tear down things. Maybe he wanted to save the FBI. Maybe he didn't want to believe people that he thought were like him couldn't act that way. But the truth is, the McCabe's, the Strucks, the Pages, all of those people, the James Bakers in the general counsel's office, all of those people believed that they were better than the person that the people of the United States had elected president. It's an unbelievable story of grotesque abuse of power. And when you couple that with what the Biden people did, hiding Joe Biden's mental incompetence, you have a string of acts that subverted the Constitution like never before.
Well, Joe, you've been honored from day one. Maybe you and I will get to see it brought to the American people in the right way so that we fix our country.
Hope so.
That'd be a great day. That'd be a great day. Give my love to Vicky, okay?
She wants to talk to you sometime this week,
All
she
right.
said.
Next week, Vicky.
All right. It's a deal.
God bless you. Have a great weekend, the two of you. You deserve
too.
it. Now, there's a powerful couple, huh? Wow. Two great lawyers. You know, I've been with them a great deal, both socially and professionally. We work together a lot. They are quite harmonious. Maybe they hide it. I'm going to ask them that sometime. But they really get, well, you were there for a bit. You saw how well they worked together, right? Ted?
Right. Absolutely.
They were
And
dynamo, and she
they were
is
great.
wow.
Right.
She is one
We got
tough lawyer.
We got to get her on next week.
She picks up every little detail. Every little detail.
Right. We'll get her on next week.
Yeah, I'm gonna get her on sometime when I can have her explain her career too.
Right.
And his. There's the guy who turned the Teamsters around.
Right.
There's the guy that got the mafia out of Las Vegas. And that's why he's got these he was a real prosecutor. I don't know what these people okay.
Right.
I don't know what they're like. I really don't. So I think the president is in a tough spot right now. I think he's in a tough spot because he's got two balls in the air of major promises that he's made. And it keeps going back and forth as to what's going to happen. So let's take them one at a time. Let's take the Putin one first. Okay. So the president, when he was running for the longest time, made the extremely valid point, this would never have happened unto him. The whole world knows that. The whole world knows that Putin is a very, very careful, very shrewd, very prudent mass murderer, right? He's only going to do it if he can get away with it. And he was not going to do it under Trump. He demonstrated that by the mere fact that he did it 3 times under 4 presidents, and he happened to skip only one Trump. Bush, Obama, no Trump, Biden. I don't know. Do I have to prove it anymore? I will if you want me to. He was not going to attack under Trump. Biden virtually sent him an invitation. Attack Ukraine, and I will do nothing really effective. I'll make believe that I'm supporting Ukraine, but I won't do much. And I certainly won't put any boots on the ground. That he repeated 432 times. It seemed for a while in that 1 month period where Putin was treating him like a guy on a string, you know. Okay, say it for me again, little Joe. No boots on the ground. One more time, little Joe. No boots on the ground. If I attack Ukraine, what will you do? No boots on the ground. Joe, will you put boots on the ground? No, Vladimir, no. I would be so afraid of war. So what does Vladimir do? He comes in and he takes what was left there for him. And now Biden, with Ukraine already occupied, says Ukraine should win the war. But then he doesn't give him the arms to win the war. He barely gave him the arms to contain Russia. And then they want to hit Russia because the only way Russia is killing their civilian population and they're not striking back. I mean, it's remarkable that they held them down to taking only 20% of the country with the very, very meager support they got. I mean, this was like MacArthur being held back by Truman and the communists around him during the Korean War. And I know I've made reference to it, but not recently. And sometime I will spend a little time, we'll take a little sidebar on the Korean War. So when I talk about it, you know what I'm talking about. But MacArthur's hands were tied behind his back in a war that was the first one we didn't win. It could have been won. Could have been won in 4 weeks. China was even weaker than the communists around Truman predicted. Remember, China had just come off 30 years of war. They were virtually decimated. Chiang Kai-shek was virtually decimated. Oh, they may have sent troops over the border. But if we wanted to release a couple of bombs on them, not even nuclear. Remember, they weren't even nuclear then. And Russia was only in infantile nuclear capacity, and they weren't going to go to war for China. They hated China. That is a war we could have won if we had loyal Americans running our military at the time. But we had sellouts to Marxism, which is why we owe the Polish people helping to liberate Poland, because if it weren't for the fact that we didn't have communists surrounding Roosevelt, Patton would have liberated Poland easily. Well, what are we going to do with Putin? He doesn't want to make peace. If Trump goes along with what he wants, it'll be a defeat for Trump. If he goes along the Putin outline, then our great president will have had a defeat at the hands of Putin. If Putin gets everything that he took in Ukraine, meaning all of the 20% that he has, and all of the mineral rights that come along with that, which is about a third of the mineral rights in Ukraine. He's got his direct road to Crimea. He's got virtual domination of the sea. He has Ukraine with a small sliver of access to the sea, which I always thought he would close. I'm absolutely shocked that he didn't go across to take the rest of it, but he didn't. He still may if we give him enough time, I guess. If we let him have all of that, which means Ukraine giving up its territorial integrity and its sovereignty in 20% and some of the most valuable part of its country, after it had been promised by the United States and by the Russians that we would not attack them when they gave up nuclear weapons. Doesn't that automatically make us a country that breaks its word? Seems to me it does. Well, maybe that doesn't count anymore. Honor. Gosh, when we threw God out, we threw honor out, didn't we? And then if that happens, Putin takes the troops that he has now and he puts them on the border of Estonia. And you know, Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania are building a wall because they're afraid of Putin coming back. And he steps over that wall and we have World War III because that triggers NATO. We have to defend them. And although you would doubt under Biden, we would. Under Trump, that would happen. So here's my advice to Trump. Don't let him get everything he wants. We're going to have to let him get more than Ukraine wants to give him. But at this stage, it would be at least a draw and maybe a victory for us. And see if you agree with this. And we have you have the weekend to text us about this. See if you agree that this would be a major victory for us. Russia gets to keep Crimea. Ukraine has got to swallow that. They don't want to. But when we wouldn't want to give up New Mexico, right? Or Crimea is a lot more important. Texas. We might want to give up California, but that's a different story. It depends on what we got. Like maybe Greenland and Canada for California. But they got to take Newsom. And also all the drag queens.
I was going to say,
and all the communist spies.
You got to take the people. And actually,
no, not all the people. A lot of conservatives.
No, a lot of good people.
I'll keep the state.
We keep the farmers, and we'll send them up to farm in Canada.
And I'd say we'd keep like the nice beaches, but a lot of those got ruined because of the fires.
Yeah, the beaches. Who knows what they put on those beaches? Who knows what diseases?
Well, yeah, a lot of the runoff. So
who knows what diseases there are on those beaches?
As it rains through all those synthetic materials that were built in the Hollywood Hills, millions upon millions of dollars, it all just leaches into the water and onto the beaches and into the pristine.
Do you want my peace proposal or don't you want my peace?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay. My peace proposal is this. It's very simple. I always like half and half. Give us back half of what you took. It's easy. 20%, we take back 10%. And no screwing around, Vladimir, because we know where the rare earth minerals are, and we know you got a third of them, pal. So we want half of that. Look, you didn't have any of those rare earth minerals before. You're going to come away with a nice chunk, but they really belong to Ukraine, and you're stealing them. So we'll let you steal half of what you stole. We'll take the others for us, and it'll come under our agreement. Always thought that Trump had that in mind, because if you go back, and I memorize what he says, way back, he said, well, this agreement should involve they're both giving land back. I knew exactly what he was talking about there. He was way ahead of Zelensky on that. He wanted those mineral places back in Donetsk and some of the other valuable territory. So then Ukraine's got to live with Russia having a road in what was always a somewhat Russian favorable part of Ukraine. Although they didn't want to be part of Russia, they liked Russia. We'll get 2/3 of the mineral rights plus half of the other third, which will put us in a great position to compete with and eventually knock out China, which we're going to do. Ukraine has already kicked China out, so they have reduced mineral rare earth access now. And then here's where I would get fired from the administration by the isolationists, right? So I would say, we're going to put European troops in there, Vladimir, so you don't start a war again. I don't want no more people killed. I'm sorry. But I'm going to say, you screw around and Americans are coming in. And if you really think that shitty army of yours can face us, I watched them really carefully. And it really was funny when the North Koreans were killing each other. But things are so bad, Vladimir. Things are so damn bad, Vladimir, that you got to use North Koreans who can't figure out if they're shooting Ukrainians or they're shooting they're shooting Russians. Oh, and gee, Vladimir, because you really embarrassed me by not coming, we have something. Have you ever heard, Vladimir? I don't know. I hate to do this to this guy. I like you so much, but you ever heard of secondary sanctions? I know what you're doing. We just sanctioned him again, heavy, for direct sale of Russian oil. But he sells it through other people. So let's say he sells it to Erdogan, who would double cross us in a minute, right? Even though you see him walking with the president, watch out that a knife doesn't go in the back. Erdogan would buy it from him, kind of cover it up, sort of white label it, that he got it from somewhere else, and sell it to us. And because he put a good price on it, we wouldn't even bother to ask. That's happening all the time. So here's what you do. You use a turkey. We catch you doing that one time. You and your ships are not going to be ever carrying oil to the United States. Germany, you do that to us? Man, we're just waiting for you to do that to us because you need a good kick in the ass. Secondary sanctions would virtually wipe them out. Not 100%. We don't have to wipe them out 100%. How about 80? Their economy is not our economy. Their economy isn't even China's economy. They can't afford the war right now. They're not going to be able to afford to eat. What happened the last time they couldn't afford to eat? They threw Yeltsin out. You think they like this guy more than Yeltsin? You think he's a charmer, a big charmer you think this guy's a big charmer in Russia? Like the Russian people really love him? You see him going around like Trump with town hall meetings and yeah, whenever he shows up, people are going off to the gulag.
Something charming about a cold barrel of a gun.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like precisely what he is. He looks like a stone cold KGB killer who's now gotten old.
And we also hear that he's very afraid his physical space, right? He keeps that very well protected.
Was he afraid of dying?
He's the first one out. I mean, what was that group? The Wagner group, right? They made their way.
Oh, the Wagner group.
He was
scared
out
the
of
hell
there.
out
He
of
was out of the Kremlin so fast.
But
that was a group of like, yeah. So,
well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Okay. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. Don't you feel like doing that?
Great picture.
Okay. So let's see. We're going to cover a bunch of subjects because I tell you this, but sometimes I don't feel like I convey it correctly. I view our role, and not just mine, but some of my colleagues, as telling you things you're not going to hear elsewhere, or giving you an analysis that will be not given to you elsewhere. Like, I really doubt that anyone else is going to tell you with regard to Comey. You're going to say, when you look at the 86, 20, 47, you're going to say, oh, it could mean, he may have known, he may not have known. I didn't know the person with the value, but I don't know. Suppose I told you the following, that in one case in particular that he handled when I was his boss, the name of the case was United States against Salerno. It was the second case against Salerno, not the critical one. I wouldn't have trusted him with the critical one because he was too young. Not really because I thought of anything wrong with him, but he was junior. So he had the follow-up case on Salerno. And in that case, all of the tape recordings of the Genovese crime family were played. And during the course of those tapes, there were a number of occasions where the mafia guys used the expression, we're going to fix that guy. We're going to 86 that guy. Somebody's in the process of pulling them out right now and has found more than a few. So this is a guy that you may be part of the innocent unwashed and never had any idea what does 86, 47, what does 86 mean? But he was a professional prosecutor who went through a case with a large number of recordings where they said, we're going to 6 that guy. We're going to 86 that guy. Now, in his defense, he was not there when the case was being made. I was, and the assistants who were involved in that. So we were the ones who heard that, a couple of hours after it was said. And every one of those was a very, very tense situation. The question was, are they telling the truth? And do we have to notify the victim? And if we do, will we prejudice our wire? And we did notify the victim. And thank God we got through it. So I'm not saying it created that tension from him so that he wouldn't ever forget it. But I am saying it came up frequently enough during the trial and during the discovery that you had to know what it meant one time in your life. But it gets better than that. A couple of years later, this is when I was gone as U.S. attorney, he was somehow involved in one of the Gotti trials. It wasn't the big one in the Eastern District, I don't think. I think it probably was a brother but in any event, once again, on the tapes, 86 and 6 are used a lot. We're going to 86 him, which means we're going to kill him. We're going to 6 him. Six gun. We're going to 6 him. So when he saw those rock formation, when he saw that rock formation, right? And he knew it was political. Number one, why didn't it recall what he had known as a prosecutor? And two, doesn't he owe an explanation under oath of what he thought was political about it? And doesn't he owe an explanation of what he was conveying politically when he put it up? Yes. Will he be treated like the prince that he was and be allowed to commit all kinds of crimes against our country again? Or will he finally be treated like everyone else? Please, 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 please. Pam, cash. This is easy. Nothing to do with political persecution, nothing to do with getting even. Man, you're doing your job. Every time I had a threat on the president, ambiguous as hell or not, that person got called in, that person got questioned, and if we weren't satisfied with the explanation, he got prosecuted. We don't play around with the lives of our presidents. And when I was mayor, I made sure that happened. Made sure that happened for Reagan, who I loved. I made sure it happened for Bush, who I loved. And I made sure it happened for Clinton, who I can't tell you I loved. But he was the president, and he was treated exactly the same way.
And he's basically
If this
signed
guy
up
is
for
not
it.
investigated, he's getting special treatment. Why? In the name of heaven would we give him special treatment with what he's done to all of us, including me? And I put aside the personal. It's not personally what he did to me. It's what he did to me institutionally. Okay. I told you on Sunday, the eyes of the world are going to switch to the city behind me, Rome. And Simone, do we have Simone on? Well, go see if you can get it, Ted.
We got her.
Hi. Hi, Mr. Mayor. Thanks so much for having me.
Simone, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. Maybe my framing should be a little lower. How are you?
Good. Have you had a chance? I mean, it's hard to miss. Have you had a chance to follow all of the beautiful coverage of Rome and the selection of the new pope, and now his investiture is coming up on Sunday?
Absolutely. And I have all my family in Rome right now. So I'm update constantly live about this beautiful celebration. My sister was there. So I had kind of live connection.
Now, does your family, I don't remember, does your family come from Rome?
No, we are from Caserta. My mother is from the Amalfi Coast, Salerno, and my father is from Genova, so the north.
From Genoa? Oh.
Yes. It's a Genova surname, but so I'm a mix between the northern and southern Italian.
Me too.
Exactly, the best.
I'm Florence and Avellino, or Montecatini and Naples.
Well, Avellino is just right nearby my hometown. Caserta.
I remember.
Yes.
Who knows?
Amazing.
We may be related.
Probably. I hope so.
I hope so too. So now tell me what it's like. Is it? You know, I was in Italy 5 weeks ago, and he was dying at the time.
Yeah.
And in fact, they took us on a tour and took us in the back, and it was very strange. Very secretly, they showed us they had already made the new white robes for the new popes.
Wow.
And they had them hidden because they didn't want anybody to see them. And they make a short one, a medium one, and a tall one.
Every size.
And then when the Pope comes, they got to get it on him quick, you know. So I'm looking at Pope Leo. I guess he got the middle size. He's about a normal size guy.
I think so. And actually, Italians are really happy about finally seeing a pope that bringing back the Catholic morality to the roots of Christianity. Finally, a more traditional pope, which is bringing back Catholicism to its roots. And this is something that I heard from Italians.
Isn't that nice?
Very nice. Very disappointed by the liberal approach of Pope Francis.
You know, a lot of the conservatives at first turned against him. Mostly the ones that aren't Catholics, though. They turned against him because he mentioned St. Francis too much, and he mentioned the poor too much. But frankly, the thing wrong with St. Francis or Pope Francis was not that he cared about the poor. It was that he seemed to be a little bit leaning toward communism.
Absolutely agree with you.
I just have to say it, from the liberation theology that infected South America. And I don't detect any of that
I
In
am.
this man, I see a very traditional Catholic who understands the dangers of communism, understands the value of ancient masses and what they can mean for certain people. Gosh, and a very
Yeah,
brilliant man.
he has been very much vocal against abortion. He called out gender madness, which is a huge result for the Catholic world and the Italians in general. I mean, one thing I can share with you, growing up in Italy, and I believe anyone who has been raised by an Italian family, your culture, Catholicism is part of your culture, it's part of your upbringing. So when you see a pope leaning toward communism or more liberal stance, it conflict with the concept of Catholic culture and values you have been raised by. I always make this joke, even the most liberal in Italy would be a conservative in the United States. I don't know if it makes sense.
Well, the prime minister would like that.
Yeah, right?
I-
Italians can't understand this.
I'm in love with your prime minister.
She's amazing. And
I
she
went
loves you too. She loves you too.
When I went to see her, they told me she was very busy. I'd have a half hour. An hour and a half later, I walked out.
I mean, you are
We
an
just
icon
talked
in
about it.
Italy, as you know.
We
You're
just
an
talked about
institution.
everything.
Yes.
You know, and
I mean,
also how much she can help President Trump. And I mean, there are a lot of things that she can do because she's amazing. The way she hasn't won over, you know, the European, I call them jerks, but she charms them.
she
They're
has
charmed by her.
she's amazing. She's the leader Italy needs. And I'm not surprised that she was with you for over an hour because you are an absolute icon in Italy. And that's I want to tell you, somebody who has grown in Italy. And when I had the honor to interview you for the series, I had my I raised up to the top.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I'm about as American as you can get. When we have Memorial Day and we have the 4th of July, I come on this show, I look like an American flag, right? But I'm also, and it's very strange, I'm also very, very, very proud of my Italian heritage.
Well,
I wouldn't want to be anything else. Now, I hope that's true of everybody else that, you know, but my family built it into me and my church built it into me. I am so proud of, you know, of being Italian. I love being Italian.
And Italians are very proud to be represented in America by somebody like you. And you related to issues that are very, that Italians resonate with, which is the mob, the mafia. And you are the only one in history who achieved to bring down the machine, which in Italy is still
I got a lot of help. And a lot of them, you have to know, are Italian American. A lot of them.
Yes.
I'm thinking today I was reminded of the guy who infiltrated the mafia and they almost killed him 4 times, Joe Pistone.
Yes.
Well, that Pistone, what do you think? Italian American, Louis Free, Italian American. I mean, these are the, it wasn't all Italian American, but there were a lot of Italian Americans who felt we have to do it because it shouldn't be, it really shouldn't be, but it's a blight on our people. It's like the kind of prejudices they have. You know, Italian Americans were the second most lynched people in the history of the United States.
I heard of it and I was shocked to learn
Way
it,
back,
actually.
you know, when the Klan was around in New Orleans, they used to lynch them because, you know, a lot of them came from Sicily and they thought they thought they were too dark.
Well, I am the example of an Italian from the South. I'm not dark at all.
You know, you look Italian, even though you shouldn't look Italian.
Right?
I don't know why is that. Like, so
My
when you
teacher.
see a blonde, you immediately say, I mean, I could easily say Switzerland, Sweden, right? For you.
Absolutely.
But there's something about, maybe because I know you are, I don't know.
And also I think my features are Italians. The color might not be, but I'm so Italian in my personality, my features,
Yeah,
and
maybe
everything
it's
about me.
because I know you. But you couldn't be more beautiful, so don't worry about it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, now you all should listen to her, and we are going to do. I mean, I'm looking forward to our doing a whole big thing on Italy. Okay.
Absolutely. And as you could see,
And give Mr.
Italians are
Papadopoulos my regards.
absolutely. He's
How is
looking
he?
forward to see. He's amazing. We finally moved to the sunny state of Florida. We moved
Where?
out of California.
Where are you in Florida?
We are in Miami, so we're just close to you.
Oh, come and
Not
visit
close
me.
enough. Anytime. We were just
You
about
guys
to-
should have been on. You guys should have been on live.
I was talking to Ted and trying to
Next time-
Yeah,
arrange it.
we invited him in person.
Next time
there.
we'll do it in advance,
And
and
the timing was
we'll do them
just-
both. The tag. That's quite a
They will-
powerful couple there.
It's a
Thank you
Friday
so
night
much. We
Miami
would be
traffic.
honored to come both on your show. You know, it was
And
an immense pleasure to come see you. We're just 1.5 hours away.
Oh, that's
And I
so
get down-
wonderful.
I get-
and maybe we'll come and visit you.
Yeah, we
we
get
have
down
some
to
plans
Miami.
to go to Miami.
Oh, yeah, we
you
get
let us
down.
know where you are, all right?
Both ways. We are
Okay.
like in Doral, so it's just right in front Trump Golf.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
maybe we'll have to take a pit stop.
Near that cigar shop that I love.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness. yeah.
cigar. George is a big fan of cigar. You know that.
Well, we got
I
to tell
know.
George about. We got the spot for George.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
well,
Okay,
thank
you
you.
can-
You
When
give
you come
George.
down, we're available anytime. Even tomorrow, we come down.
Okay, might
I've
be.
been talking to him. Yeah.
Why not?
Well, you give George my regards, and it's always remarkable having you. You're so smart, too. Well, we'll be right back as we
Thank
take
you.
a short break after that wonderful interview. She is really talented. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal, 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
Giuliani, this is America's Mayor Live. I am so happy with the background that I now have. It's golden. It shows I don't know how to describe it. It shows the beauty of the Vatican. Now, you see the building in back of the Vatican there? I'm not sure if that's part of their property or not, but for the longest time, stupidly, I thought that was Castle Sant'Angelo, which it's not. Castle Sant'Angelo is a little further well, I got to point the other way now. You see, because the screen is
Behind
it's
you.
it's a little more. How do I point over here, Ted? I got to go like what? I got to go like that. Oh yeah, okay, good, okay. Now a little more that way. Okay, so now the time. So right now, in back of me is the dome, St. Peter's Basilica. Behind me is where I was staying when I took those pictures I showed you before of the back of the Vatican and the beautiful hills in between. Now, behind me is the Tiber River. There's a road that leads into the Vatican right over the bridge. Road is filled with restaurants, curiosity shops, religious shops, very, very, very serious religious shops, and very trinkety religious shops. Very, very good restaurants and restaurants. And then when you go around, if you see those arches there, those are done by the great Italian artist Bernini. Behind that is the Vatican. And if you wanted to go to the papal palace, you would sneak around. If you wanted to go visit, if you had a special visit with the Pope in his residence, which is very rare, they're in a formal place, you would go around the back and then go up a special stairs. Many, many tea leaves are being looked at and interpreted about this Pope. When he first was named Pope, he mentioned Pope Francis. Therefore, he's going to be Pope Francis too, and he's going to be very, very, very accommodating to communists and to China, and he's going to allow. He's going to go further with gay blessing, gay relations. He can do gay marriage, and he probably even buy into the gender stuff and all that. Then you take a little look at him. And he shows up for his original blessing within 1 hour, wearing the most formal garments of the ancient Roman Catholic Church. That had to be on purpose. He is a very smart man. He knew that they were going to comment on that. He knew if he showed up like Pope Francis, just in the white robes, without the other insignia of the vast power of the Pope, including being Bishop of Rome, they would say, oh, he's going to be someone who tries to, they like to say modernize the church. Others would say destroy it. So he showed up with the same garments worn for 500 years by the Roman Catholic pontiffs. Yeah, maybe it was just you think maybe it was just or do you think it was calculated? Then he made sure in that engagement to, yes, speak Italian, which is what he's expected to speak so that people can understand him. And he's expected to speak his own language. And not necessarily Latin, but he could. And given the attack on Latin now, but what did he do? He spoke mostly in Italian so the crowd would understand him. But then he spoke a little bit in Spanish, and then he spoke a lot in Latin. Wow, the ancient language of the church. And then the next day he spoke in English and Latin. And he conducted the Mass in English and Latin. And since then, he's been trying to steady the church. So we're going to see now on Sunday what happens. It's really important. And here's, to me, the single most important one. I am not a big right-winger on the most obvious social issues. The most obvious social issues are blessing gay relationships, gay marriage, divorced people, female priesthood, and married priesthood. I have varying views on that. I'm not in favor of all that. I'm certainly willing to see that all debated. And I probably on the married priesthood, I have very strong views that someday I will explain to you, and views that got me thrown off a panel once by Cardinal Cook. But I am very, very strong on the institutional church. I do not understand why we would want to sacrifice probably the most beautiful religious service that was ever created. So beautiful that even Protestant composers would have to use it to demonstrate how well they could compose. The most prolific composer for the Lutheran Church was one of the greatest composers of all time, Johann Sebastian Bach. To prove that he was an equal, we had to do a Roman Catholic Mass. By the way, Bach's Mass in B minor is one of the 4 or 5 most beautiful Roman Catholic Masses done by a Protestant. So this this all brings us together. And you know what it brings us together against? And this is where the other Pope was another problem. This man's not going to be a problem. I'm telling you, an American's not going to be a problem on this. We need the Pope right now, like we needed Pope John II against Russia. We need him against communism. No backing off, no negotiations. We got to listen to Our Lady of Fatima. They want to destroy us. The communists want to destroy us. And the current crop are the Chinese communists, and they're the best we faced so far. They have made fools out of us. They've infiltrated us. They've taken over our schools. They've taken over our universities. They've corrupted our politicians. They've corrupted our businessmen. And we don't even know where the hell they are after what Biden did to us for 4 years. But I have to tell you, in a very short period of time, Trump has done a lot more than just bop them in the nose. He's got them scurrying and they don't know what the hell hit them. China's economy is, they don't know what to expect. Today, tariffs, no tariffs. Tariffs, no tariffs. Tariffs, yes, tariffs. Maybe tariffs. Tariffs. Now, here's the difference. We get hurt. You know, the difference between our economy and theirs can't even be measured by size. Size is about like this and like that. Flexibility. As you would imagine, for a communist country where creativity is snuffed out, everything they have, the Chinese, they've stolen. They've gone through 100 years and not created a damn thing. Everything they have stolen. If you can cut them off from stealing and you move into the next generation, within 30 years, they'll be a second-rate country, having to deal with half their people that are in poverty. Half our people are not in poverty, not their kind of poverty. And so what Trump has done to them with a dizzying display of tariffs is scare the living daylights out of them. Xi is traveling all over the world. He's trying to make friends with this one. He's trying to make friends with that one. He's trying to make up for America with someplace else. Sorry, Mr. Xi, there's no country in the world that's as rich as ours. You're not going to make the profit anywhere else that you make with us. And we were the primary market you depended on. You were not the primary importer that we depended on. We got a couple of areas where we depended on you, but we're doing a pretty good job of sneaking out from those, like rare earth minerals with Ukraine. So this is the battle to keep your eye on between the United States and China. And China has actually had to put out communiques, which are very hard to get, but I got them through the new Epic Times. China put out a communique the other day assuring the Chinese people they would have enough to eat without United States crops.
But where did they get their soy sauce?
Well,
Iowa, baby.
They don't have the facilities in South America to rectify that for 2 years. And if they do, it'll never be a 1-for-1. You can't do without crops for 2.5 years.
All right, I'm calling it now. The soy sauce riots of Beijing. Oh, of Beijing. You have to say it like that or else it means something else.
The main alternative to America right now is a decrepit Atlantic coast city in South America where they get soybeans and modest agricultural goods. Right now, it's the only viable alternative to the U.S., which would mean it will take about a year for them to get a reasonable supply of vegetables back into China.
Yeah, I wouldn't like my agricultural goods to be described as modest, right?
That's about the only thing we export to them because they need it.
Yes. And we grow it in droves. Oh yeah.
Now, if those became critical and they decided once again to deprive us of rare earth minerals, all we have to do is have a little accident happen in one of those places and they won't be able to eat. We won't have rare earth minerals, but they won't be able to eat. So they've got, of course, the communist Lula trying to see if he can move Brazilian products to them. But of course, it's a communist government that is so inept, so disorganized, so corrupt. It would take them 5 years to build a house.
It'd probably end up in Ukraine somehow.
Yeah, and it would probably end up, in South Carolina.
Somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You have no idea of how incompetent the communist system is for creating things, which is why this pressure on them and having to demonstrate this to the rest of the world is brilliant. It beats going to war. China is also building railways in Brazil so that they can get the crops to the market. The problem is to build anything in Brazil is about a 20. I mean, Brazil is also a completely crooked country. It's another 20 years to build it. I mean, they work 2 hours a week. In Peru, the home where the Pope was, Costco Shipping has built a deep water megaport, but it isn't operating yet, and they haven't figured out how to operate it.
Wait, come again now?
They built one in Peru. It's just about done, but they don't know how to operate.
And there's just no one knows how to use it.
Well, they brought the Chinese in, and they're fighting with the Peruvians, and they're all having conflicts. And I mean, these are not like efficient people. They didn't grow up in a Adam Smith world, with the work ethic and it's everybody's going to get what they want, and if you
But
work,
not much.
yeah.
Get what you want, but not much of it.
China is cracking down on chip makers. They just put one in jail. Looks like death penalty. Now, whether he was a traitor or not, who the hell knows, right? Who knows? But the guy's off to the death penalty. Oh,
He's probably just an enemy of Xi.
and it may be, or it may not be. It may or may not be, legitimate. We talked about Comey. I don't want to beat a dead horse. Hopefully, he is a dead horse. And we talked about the Supreme Court and their monumental decision that they're going to make, which I told you in excess of honesty, I thought it was the wrong case for the administration to bring to the court. I don't think you want to introduce the complexity of birthright citizenship with a much less complex topic that a single district court shouldn't be able to bind the whole country. But when you do it under birthright citizenship, which many of these people just reflexively believe is an easy issue, now, it isn't an easy issue. And it's only an easy issue because they think reflexively and not really like conservatives. There is an extraordinarily strong argument that birthright citizenship does not belong to the child of an illegal. The only Supreme Court case to interpret that ambiguous provision in the Constitution is one that granted birthright citizenship to a non-citizen born of legal parents who are here legally, Japanese parents who are here legally, not born of some woman who comes over the border just to have a baby so she can get American welfare. But the court didn't seem, except for, of course, the only two justices we can count on, Alito and Thomas, and to some extent Gorsuch, I might add, picked that up.
Where did Gorsuch come down on this one?
Well, he didn't. They haven't decided yet.
Well, or where do you
On the
think
other
he will?
one,
Where do you think he will?
He'll come down on our side, on both.
Because he does have sort of a libertarians.
Yeah, but it's a conservative libertarian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then Sotomayor is
I
probably
honestly don't worry about him much or Kavanaugh. You got to always worry about Barrett. I don't know.
Kavanaugh's our
There
friend,
was an
man.
article in some conservative thing that Barrett was a plant.
You know what? I mean, it makes sense.
They got some issue that she was liberal at some point in her life. I don't know if that's true.
I occasionally get the same feeling about Roberts.
No. Robert's
I know, but
I know Robert. I work with
There's
Roberts.
some key cases where
Roberts is Roberts is an institutional guy. He's more concerned with the reputation of the court than the integrity of the Constitution, which is a tragedy.
well, and it's
And also how he will be received at cocktail parties.
that's the big one that all those justices succumb to as they move to DC.
And members of elected office.
That's what
One
happens to
very
everybody-
famous
almost everybody in
Republican,
Washington.
one very famous Republican once told me about 12 years ago that he wasn't going to support another famous Republican because he would allow the Washington Post and the New York Times to govern, because every time they said something, he got intimidated.
Can't get intimidated.
That describes a lot of Washington, and it describes a lot of the weaklings in our party. They want to be accepted, even though they have made our philosophy unacceptable. It would be as if the Christians in the first century wanted to be accepted. There would be no Christianity. To be accepted,
They would start praying to like Neptune or whatever.
yeah, Jupiter, yeah. Forget Jesus.
Yeah,
we were only making believe.
That's just
We were
like
only
something
making
I
believe
do.
with Jesus. We
Yeah.
don't really.
It's good food. Body and
So
blood.
I think as we conclude for the weekend, but you're going to see us again this weekend at a specially designated time, probably on Sunday, in which we're going to wrap up for you the papal mass.
Yes.
We're gonna wrap it up, or we're gonna.
Well, we may
some
cover it,
coverage.
we may
Well-
wrap it up, but this is because this show allows me to do all the things I never got to do. I'm going to explain that before I finish. So the Trump trip, I don't know if it could have gone better. I don't know. When you come back with a couple of $1 trillion, anybody going to complain? You get Syria possibly on the road to making peace with Israel. Whoa. You get all that money out of the two richest countries on earth. Hopefully you straighten out Qatar. Let's see. Hopefully you straighten out Syria. We're not counting on it. We're just telling them they have to do it. And I thought his speech that he gave yesterday about how the Middle East, the great countries in the Middle East, and I think he was talking about Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, which breaks down into Abu Dhabi and Dubai, particularly, Qatar, Bahrain, how these countries have become vital, good countries, and they are moving away from the things that hold them back. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it's the beginning of a lot. When Mohammed bin Salman allowed women to drive about 4 years ago. Now, you should know, you can watch it all, my friends, because I worked there in Qatar for 4 years. You know how you watch it? First, you see what they do in Bahrain and Dubai. They're out front. As I told you, Bahrain already has had a Jewish woman, Arab country, Muslim country, Jewish woman, representative to the UN. Jewish men and women in the government, crosses and Stars of David on their churches and synagogues. When I was there, you would not see that in any other Arab country except Bahrain. However, in Dubai, you'd come close to seeing it. Christians had churches, Jews had temples. They were allowed to do business with the government. They were allowed to, they were just about women were just about being brought into the government. Bahrain was a few years ahead. They were just doing it, They've done it a lot now. And they were allowing the churches and synagogues to be more open, both Catholic and Protestant. Now, Qatar used to be about 5 years behind Dubai. It's now about 2 years behind Dubai. So you see that coming through in Qatar. And all of a sudden, the one they never thought would move, Saudi Arabia, under Mohammed bin Salman, I tell you the truth, I haven't been there. They have moved a lot. And I can't assess it for you, but they are on a spectrum where women drive, religions are accepted.
You can go to the cinema. They have international cinema.
Yeah. And he
That
wants
was the
to
big
move
one.
it.
That's the one they always mention when they're talking about modernization. Is the
He
cinema.
wants to move it fast because I think that's his answer to how he overcomes his street. He modernizes them.
Oh, the other thing,
so they don't want to kill him all the time.
They have the number of women entrepreneurs in Saudi Arabia has just risen exponentially, and they
notice they had a woman walking around with Trump, giving him
that was
yeah. I think that was in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
that would not be a shock in Dubai. It would not be a shock in Bahrain. It would not in the might have been a little bit. I didn't mention the Emirates because he actually went to the Emirates, which is the capital of the United Arab Emirates, of which Dubai is a part. The Emirates is a little bit more conservative, but it's not rigidly religious. It's rigidly conservative. So they're not going to take their headdresses off as fast.
But that's Dubai you're talking?
No, I'm talking about the Emirates.
Oh, okay.
That would be the sister emirate.
Okay.
So there are 7 Emirates.
Oh, I got
United
you.
Emirates, 7 Emirates. The 2 big ones are the richest one, the Emirates, and the flashiest one, Dubai.
Well, they sponsor enough soccer teams. Holy smokes, right?
Oh, yeah. And they both make
And-
a lot of
and
money.
every other
but
sport,
the
actually.
big money is in the Emirates.
Yes.
And if they're ever in any trouble, the real big money is in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So, what else should we cover, Ted? I think we got most of it. We got to see what happens with the Iran deal.
Right.
I just hope it doesn't happen and we just get rid of all their nuclear facilities by bombing them, okay?
Yeah.
I hope Putin gives up half his territory. And I hope we don't have to ever cover the Diddy trial. What a bunch of crap.
But just in case, jurors were sent home after the main witness or victim, I guess, Cassie. Who is it? Who?
No, a member of our audience knows. One of the main witnesses
disappeared.
Okay. That's a couple days old. Well, we'll do some additional research and we'll see what happens.
Maybe we'll put something out over the weekend. Not we. I'll do it.
He faces 1 racketeering conspiracy charge, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and 2 counts.
I'd much rather be
prosecution.
prosecuting James Cardinal Comey, but I don't know.
Right. Yeah, we have.
Comey's mad that this is taking
Although
some
this
of the
guy could be.
spotlight.
This guy could have been a. Have you been following the trial? Is he a major pervert?
Is P. Diddy a major?
Is he guilty?
I think he's
Right.
is being
Do you
a
think he's
pervert.
guilty?
Yes, all Hollywood celebrities, I believe they're all saying he's very in the.
It's a Hollywood thing.
I believe it.
Yeah.
When it comes power and people abuse it, I believe it.
Yeah, and he apparently.
Okay, so the
killed a
audience-
bunch of others.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone's
Hollywood
saying that
cult.
he's guilty over here.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll do some more on this, and
I
we'll
think
see
a
what comes
pervert
on.
I
does
keep
not
saying
a
we're going to
murderer
review the
make.
case, and then I start reviewing, and I say, "Why am I reviewing this case?
Right.
I want to look at the Supreme Court decision."
That's
I
the
mean-
other thing. Why do people care? Oh yeah, well Epstein files. Yeah, we're always waiting on those, right? That'll come out soon. Stay
You
tuned.
see,
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
I actually have a very, very iconoclastic belief that I believe that all that, you know how we worried about the internet and all that stuff? I think the thing that started the deterioration of our children and their attention deficit disorder was the unbelievable desecration of music we presented them for 50 years.
Oh, kids these days. Huh?
Because we don't teach them to engage in long-term experience with music. It's like we let them read classic, if not even classic comic books. Suppose we let kids read only things that lasted for 4 minutes. They would never learn how to read something that challenged your intellect and made you think. Well, that's what we do with music. We let them listen to things that end in 3 or 4 minutes that challenge nothing in terms of your ability to allow music to affect your emotions, your intellect, to follow a theme, to understand the mathematical rhythms of music. We do the same thing with reading. I mean, we have a population that can't listen to music beyond 3 minutes or 4 minutes. Certainly can't listen to complex music. Now, you want to change a child around, you immediately take them to a really good teacher that'll show them how you do counterpoint with Beethoven. And then you have him try to focus on the 3 or 4 different themes that are taking place in Beethoven. You see, when romantic music came about, we got used to the melody. Wagner, Beethoven. The great Baroque composers would write sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different complementary tunes for different instruments. And they combine it into one. So you want to learn music, you start working on Baroque counterpoint. You'll find that you'll love it. It's very, very lively music. But if you sit down now and you start thinking about it, you're going to start realizing you're not just listening to one thing. And when you can start identifying the different you're saving yourself from Alzheimer's, okay? Well, this weekend, what should they pay attention to? We're gonna switch off right now, and we're gonna watch 2 games: the Yankees and the Mets, and the Knicks and the Celtics. Right?
Well, this weekend they should pay attention to the Papal Mass.
Well, yeah, but that's on Sunday.
Knicks
On
we're
Sunday,
gonna watch
yes.
the end of the Knicks game right now.
You got to score on that.
Yep,
You got to score on that.
get that. So the Knicks win tonight, they will move on, and they're up big.
Well, no, the Knicks, they're up big.
They are up big at the half.
Oh yeah, but the half doesn't count in these things here.
Right.
So we should bet on the other
The Yankees
team.
are beating the Mets 6-1, and it's the 7th inning. And I don't know. I mean, they're not giving you a breakdown of the game here. Let's see. What are you kidding?
We'll check it out, Mayor. So thanks everyone for joining us. A very busy news week.
Longtime Yankee broadcaster Michael Kay encouraged fans to boo Juan Soto during return to Bronx. Now, Michael Kay is a good friend of mine. I don't agree with that. I absolutely don't agree with that. I think that's ridiculous to boo Juan Soto. He took the better offer from the Mets. If the Yankees wanted him, offer him $50,000 more. I don't know.
Right.
How stupid. Sorry, Michael, but that's stupid. What are you doing? What are you getting the fans to boo for? You know, these guys are such great athletes. They should be applauded.
Well, he's on the other team.
Do you know, my father taught me when the other team's pitcher came out of the game, if he pitched a good game, stand up and applaud for him.
No, heckle him.
And my father was a tough guy from Harlem, not some kind of phony.
Right.
Juan Soto viciously booed. Oh, come on.
Well, we'll keep an eye on these things, and we'll see how it plays out. And then the Papal Mass Sunday, of course. So stay tuned and watch
Yankees
out for our
gave up
next live
a
video.
left-handed pitcher I never heard of.
All righty. So
the Yankees are going to play again tomorrow at 1, and then they're going to play at 7 on Sunday.
yeah. So if you're a Yankee fan out there,
So this is, I don't know what this means, but I'm going to tell you, it's very unusual. The Yankees are playing the Mets, and the Mets have a better record. And the Mets are ahead in their division, and the Yankees are ahead in their division. So you may be looking at a World Series.
Wouldn't that be something?
You may be looking at a World Series. We'll see.
Yeah.
Otherwise known as a Subway World Series.
That's right.
Ooh.
Last one happening.
Well, we're looking forward to the investiture of the Pope because it's so beautiful. We're looking forward to that resolving some of these issues because God is going to be present among us. Okay. So again, as I reminded my audience before, a lot of people to pray for. We always pray for the people at war all the time. When you go to bed tonight, you just say, if you don't want to say them all, like Israel and Ukraine, and oh gosh, we could pick countries in Africa and Iran fighting for freedom. Just say for all those people who are oppressed, dear God, we pray. And we pray to you because we're not, and we're very thankful for what you've given us. That's a good prayer to say. And then, of course, you always have to say before you go to bed, because sometimes I yell it out and I scare people. God bless America!
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason